Hello everyone, history is easy. In this video, I will talk to you about Wolsey's financial policies and to what extent they were a success or a failure, and we will also be able to answer an exam-style question about this. This video is especially useful for the GCSE Edexcel 9-1 exam board. One of the things I'd like to talk to you about is the difference between AO1 and AO2 for the exam board. For example, AO1 is the ability to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the key features and the characteristics of the period studied. This means that if somebody says to you, what was society like in 1509 during Henry VIII's reign, you're very easily able to tell us little bits of information like most people worked as tenant farmers, or that everybody was more or less a Roman Catholic and that church was a very important part of their lives. That's your AO1. Now, AO2 is your ability to explain and analyse a historical event or period studied using second-order historical concepts. So here the focus is on analysis. I will introduce you to Wolsey's financial policies and we will be looking at what was the policy, which is AO1, and then how effective it was, so that's our analysis, which is our AO2. So the first policy I will talk about is the enclosures policy. First of all, what is enclosure? Well, this is the practice of individual landowners fencing off land for profitable sheep rearing, which was being blamed for poverty in the rural areas at the time. And this is because farmers were being forced off the land and a lot of common areas where villagers could graze their animals was being removed. Many people associated enclosures with greed and selfishness because it meant that ordinary people had less land on which to graze their animals. So how did Wolsey deal with this problem? He tried to find a solution, partly out of genuine concern for the poor, but also as another way that he could attack the wealthy. So how effective it was? Well, unsurprisingly, Wolsey's actions increased his unpopularity among the wealthy landowners of England, and a lot of angry landowners in Parliament forced Wolsey to call a halt to any further investigations into the enclosed land. Therefore, did this solution succeed? Well, enclosure continued to take place and rural poverty remained a problem, so no. We're now going to talk about Wolsey's financial policy. Obviously, Wolsey wanted to raise a lot of revenue for Henry VIII because Henry needed a lot of money in order to go to war with France and please his other desires. So we now need to talk about AO1, which is the context. We should be able to understand that Henry's normal average yearly income was about £110,000, and this was not enough for him to win wars abroad. Now, Wolsey, as Henry's chief minister, was expected to come up with solutions, and he soon realised that the existing system of direct taxation was no longer working. So let's talk a little bit more about direct taxation. Traditionally, it demanded that when called upon by Parliament, each community had to pay the Crown a percentage of their movable goods. 1/15 of the value in rural areas and 1/10 for urban areas like towns and cities. So this was known as the 15th and the 10th. But the valuations were based on estimates, so that was one of the issues. And that's because the data they've got is from the 14th century, and so they were very outdated. And the amount collected under the system was predictable and reliable, but it was not enough. So how did Wolsey deal with this? His solution was to improve the system of direct taxation with the subsidy. This was an additional tax based on up-to-date assessment of a person's income, with commissioners being sent out across the country to ensure the valuations were accurate. The tax was set up in such a way that the greater the person's income, the more tax they paid, and this is very much similar to how income tax is calculated in England today. Now, our AO2 points, which is our analysis of how effective this was, well, Wolsey saw the subsidy as a success because it more accurately taxed people based on what they could afford to pay, so the rich paid the most tax. Above all, the tax worked Between 1513 and 1516, for example, the subsidy raised £170,000, while the 15th and the 10th raised only £90,000. During this time, as Lord Chancellor, Wolsey collected 4 subsidies, each one helping to pay for war in France. In the next section, we will look at a 16-marker exam-style question. The statement says, Wolsey's financial policies between 1513 and 1529 were successful. How far do you agree? The exam board will often give us 2 prompts. So the first prompt in this case is the amicable grant of 1525, the Eltham Ordinances of 1526, and that we must use information of our own. We're going to imagine that we've got to write 3 paragraphs, and every paragraph will talk individually about each one of those bullet points. Every paragraph will be worth, in our minds, around 5 marks. Paragraph 1. I don't agree with the statement that Wolsey's financial policies were all a success. This is because Wolsey, having already demanded various forced loans and subsidies in the period 1522 to 24, he decided to impose a new direct tax, this amicable grant of 1525, without the approval of Parliament. This was potentially a dangerous move, as one of Parliament's main roles was not to tax the country too hard, especially to avoid the risk of a rebellion. Unfortunately for Wolsey, the people were so angry and simply refused to pay. A full-scale revolt broke out in Suffolk in May 1525, making these protests not only far-reaching, but also the most significant rebellion of Henry's reign. In this paragraph, have we clearly shown the examiner that we understand exactly why this financial policy was not successful? Yes. Are we going to score at least 4 to 5 marks? Absolutely yes. I hope you found my video useful. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to my page. Thank you.